They called me worthless trash, stabbed me with a fork at dinner, and laughed while I bled. But I remembered everything. 3 years later, one photo destroyed their perfect lives forever. The knife sliced through skin faster than expected. Not fatal, just enough to send a message. I still hear that sound, metal scraping bone. Marcus grinned. Sarah cackled. David's voice remained emotionless. Don't stain her tablecloth. It costs more than your existence. I never screamed or recoiled. I extracted the blade slowly, placed it beside his dinner, and cleaned my arm with my sleeve. Then I sat quietly, observing. They assumed victory because I stayed silent. They misunderstood completely. I was documenting. During those days, I believed family offered sanctuary. Despite their mockery, I imagined affection existed beneath their brutality. I protected their reputation, convincing myself they were traditional or unrefined. But repeated cruelty transforms into ceremony, and ceremony becomes character. 17, I quit defending them. The transformation was subtle, invisible, like extinguishing flames in darkness. I began recording mental evidence instead. Every mockery, each humiliation, whenever Marcus claimed my belongings while Sarah and David supported him. I was uncertain about my future actions, knowing only that action would come. Enlightenment arrived 3 years afterward. Marcus was celebrating his engagement. Opulent decorations everywhere. The celebration where guests murmured "power couple" between champagne glasses. He'd captured a rich fiancée, Jessica, a lawyer with pristine credentials and spotless history. That was his perception of her too. I stood near refreshments when I noticed her alone, examining her device. The display angled perfectly for me to glimpse. Another man's photograph, not Marcus's. Messages underneath, inappropriate ones. Suddenly, the knife in my shoulder returned to memory. David's words, Sarah's amusement. Years of degradation aligned like puzzle pieces. This represented my opportunity. I avoided confrontation entirely. That evening I returned home and began investigating. I understood her recklessness already. I simply required evidence capable of destroying her existence and consequently theirs. 14 days of research provided more than anticipated. She wasn't merely unfaithful, she was stealing, diverting money from the gallery she co-managed with Sarah. The electronic transfers remained small enough to avoid detection, but accumulated into serious crimes over time. Almost disappointingly simple. My strategy was precise. Initially, I established anonymous correspondence to Marcus. Screenshots, financial documents, accommodation receipts. No explanation, purely evidence. I allowed him to reach conclusions independently. Subsequently, I mailed separate documentation to the gallery's other co-owner, David's business associate, someone who would sacrifice family for reputation protection. I knew he'd immediately contact authorities to distance himself. Additionally, I released affair photographs to entertainment media. Not using her identity directly, merely sufficient details for connections later when arrests and separation occurred publicly. Finally, the most discreet action. I contacted revenue services, suggesting potential irregularities in Sarah and David's tax filings, providing specific dates, amounts, and account information. One domino fell. The remainder followed predictably. When everything collapsed, I didn't need presence. Marcus terminated their engagement first, publicly before her friends. Then officers arrived at the gallery. Sarah screamed at police like they'd committed personal betrayal. David attempted damage control, but once tax investigators engaged, even his influence proved worthless. Within days the business froze. Within weeks, their assets faced investigation. Everything they'd constructed vanished. The culmination occurred on a stormy Thursday. I sat in a coffee shop near the courthouse when they entered. Sarah and David, ashen and anxious, with Marcus following like a specter. They never noticed me, but I observed them completely. For the first time, I didn't feel insignificant. I never revealed my involvement. Confession wasn't necessary. Revenge isn't about admission, it's about equilibrium. They provided years of humiliation, insisting I was worthless. I gave them silence, patience, and destruction. Watching them vanish into gray rainfall, I finally comprehended something profound. I didn't just steal their wealth. I stole their confidence, the conviction that I remained powerless. Now they understand the truth.